Hi guys, welcome to Finesse Gaming. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. So today we're going to do a video of my take on the change I made about 4 months ago from a PS4 using a controller to a PC using a mouse and keyboard. And I want to just go over the differences really between the two, the mouse and keyboard and the controller. So we're going to go over the positives of the controller actually at the start, and we're going to go over the positives of a mouse and keyboard as well. And I'm kind of just doing this video for anyone who's considering changing to PC or thinking about making a change over to PC or even using a mouse and keyboard on a PS4 or Xbox. Just to give you kind of an idea of what it's like to change over and what are the positives of changing over, what's easier and what's better with a mouse and keyboard, and what's maybe better using a controller. So if you do enjoy the video guys, please drop a like, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. Your support will be hugely appreciated. And yeah, let's not wait around anymore. Let's get into this video. I hope you enjoy it. Let's roll the intro. Let's go. Okay guys, so like I said, we're going to do a comparison now between a controller and a mouse and keyboard to see which one is better and what are the positives of using a mouse and keyboard over a controller. So I use a controller, like I said, for like 20 odd years. I use this one. This is the Razer Raiju. I used this for about a year. Before this was just a standard PS4 controller or whatever came before that. And yeah, I was pretty decent with them. Not incredible. I wasn't a pro player or anything like that, but I wasn't bad. I could kind of hold my own in most games, so it was okay. And I reached, I reckon, a ceiling. I couldn't really go any further. I kind of got to the level where I was not really progressing anywhere, and I was just kind of staying still. So I decided to change anyway. I was going to make a change to PC, and I was deciding whether or not to carry on using a controller on PC or change to a mouse and keyboard, which I'd never used in the past at all. So I made the change to a mouse and keyboard, and I haven't looked back since. There are a couple of things to get used to. Yes, it is a bit difficult to get used to some of the keybinds. It's a bit difficult to get used to the movement. But other than that, it's actually very, very simple to do. And it only takes probably 2, 3, 4 weeks to get used to it. So the first thing we're going to go over is some positives of the mouse and keyboard over a controller. So the first thing to really notice, actually let me do the controller first. First thing to notice is with a controller, and obviously you will all know this, but you will only have a range of motion that isn't that big. So, you know, I haven't got a lot of range. If I click it all the way to the side, I'm going to go very, very fast, which I may not want to do. So I've got to really control this. Now, these joysticks on this controller are actually quite light, which I don't really like, but they are very, very light to move. On the standard PS4 controller, they're a little bit heavier, or more resistance, I should say, and you can buy controllers off third-party people, off aftermarket ones that have more resistance in them, but they are a lot more expensive as well. But yeah, if you want more resistance, it will help because you control your aim and recoil a bit easier. But with the standard one, it's a lot harder to do. So as I move this, I've only got so much motion. I can't move it very far, and I can only move it at the speed that it is in game. So if I've got my settings at, let's say, just normal standard, that's as fast as I'm going to go. I can't go any faster. I can only go slower if I move it a little bit less. However, mouse and keyboard, I can move this as fast as I want. I can set the settings on this. I've got the DPI and on the bottom, which I can change the speed of the mouse movement, but you can do it in-game as well. And so you've got full customization on this, and then you've got full control over where you move it, which you don't have on this. And secondly, to add into that is actually recoil control. So if you play an FPS game, the recoil control on this is much, much harder. So if I get that in position, to control the recoil, again, I've got to move this. Now if I go all the way down, I'm going to shoot straight to the ground. I'll have no recoil control whatsoever. I'll be shooting someone's feet. So you've got to really just push it down a little bit, which actually can be quite difficult. Not in practice, but if you actually play competitively a lot and you go up against people, then controlling that just a tiny bit is actually quite difficult with all the movement you need to do around. With this, it's literally that. Like, when you watch people move this, they don't move. Like, control recoil is going from there to there. Job done. So this is far superior to that in controlling recoil of a gun in an FPS game. So that's the biggest difference, okay? The movement and the recoil control, the mouse wins all day long over a keyboard. Now, over a controller. However, a controller does have aim assist, so, you know, we've got to talk about that a little bit. But for me, the mouse kind of has its own aim assist almost. It is so much easier to hit targets with this than it is with this. If this didn't have aim assist, it would have no chance of competing with a mouse. So yeah, it's kind of a a positive for a controller because there it helps you, but with a mouse, believe me, once you get used to it, you will be better at aiming than you would have been with a controller. Okay guys, so I just wanted to give you an idea of what I mean by the movement speed, the difference between a mouse and keyboard and a controller. So I got a controller at the moment in my hand, the Razer Raiju, like I said, and we're just going to basically move from side to side. So I'm going to start looking at this guy in the middle here. I'm going to move as fast as I can to the left, so that's full speed. That's what I used to play on, which was just like a, I think it was number 4 settings on Apex Legends, which is like a kind of mid-speed if you don't play Apex. And we're just going to move back to him. So, not too slow, but not that fast either. Okay, and if we go to the guy over there, it's a little bit slower. Okay, so now I've got a mouse in my hand. The difference is this: if I want to go quick, I can move straight over to the different ones. Okay, so we can go from this guy straight over to him, we can move straight over to him, I can go as quick as I want, so I can snap on to these different targets, okay, as quick as I want. If I want to go a bit slower, I've got much more control over a mouse than I have with a controller, so we can start to aim better. And you'll start to notice you can lock onto these targets far easier with a mouse than you will be able to with a controller. So like I said again, as fast as I want with a mouse, I can go side to side. If we look actually now from this guy, we'll look just to this random side there, so I can go very, very quick from side to side. With a controller, as quick as I can go is that. So you can see it's far slower, much slower with a controller than it is with a mouse and keyboard. So your side movement is much slower. Okay, next I just wanted to show you the recoil control difference between a controller and a mouse and keyboard, or a mouse I should say for this. This at the moment is a controller, and as you can see, although we're killing this guy, the recoil control isn't great. I'm still killing him, but I'm moving down. I can't keep it locked onto his head. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to mouse, and you can see the difference almost straight away. So this is just using the recoil control with a mouse, just pulling down slightly. You've only got to do it a tiny amount, and you can see I can almost hold that cursor straight onto his head without moving away from it at all. Okay, so we're going to try something from a bit longer distance now. This again is back to the controller. So we're going to try and control the recoil and the aim from left to right with the controller and hit this target. We should be able to get high hundreds or maybe into the 200 damage on this sort of target with this gun, with no attachments on it apart from an extended mag. So you can see there we missed quite a few shots with the controller, we didn't get it, and then straight over to the mouse and keyboard. And you can see the shots are starting to get a lot closer together. You can see the numbers are starting to get a lot higher. So we're going to get more damage from that. Okay, so next thing to note now is actually with the keyboard instead of the mouse. So this one's got 61 keys, this is the keyboard I use, and we can set this up very easily. So the biggest difference I noticed was you have full control over obviously a lot more keys than you do on a controller, and you can set these up to whatever you want. So on a controller, I used to have 2 buttons at the top here on this one. This is an aftermarket one, and we had the buttons on the back. So we could change those to be in jump or slide or whatever it was we wanted to do, and we could use the ones at the top. But these ones are a little bit more difficult to get to. So we used to use, or I used to use triangle to select, should we say like a shield cell or something like that in Apex Legends, and we could rotate through the different ones. You can select health or shields or whatever it was. But on a keyboard, I combine those things to different keys. So instead of having to press triangle, wait for the screen to load up, then move to whatever I wanted to use, I just press one key, job done, and that's it. So there are a lot more advantages of having a keyboard than a controller, because you have far more keys obviously to press. So once you get used to the different keybinds, which does take a bit of getting used to, and that probably for me was the hardest thing to get used to, which took the longest I suppose, it wasn't hard. But once you get used to it, your natural reaction and you're without thinking go into those keys. At first you've got to think about it, and I know that does take a bit of time, and you will kind of get worse at the very beginning if you go straight into a game against other players, because you're not going to know at first which key does what. So yeah, once you get used to it though, you're far more accurate than you were with a controller, and you'll be a lot quicker than you were with a controller. And lastly, I will say the skill ceiling I've noticed, so the ceiling that you can reach, how high you can go with your skill level, is a higher ceiling with a mouse and keyboard than it is with a controller. So the learning curve is steeper, I will say as well. It's much easier to learn how to use a controller than it is a mouse and keyboard. But if you do persist with a mouse and keyboard and practice and get good at it, your skill ceiling will be higher, therefore you will be a better player. And even some of the best players in the world, so Apex Legends is the game that I play, and you've got some absolutely incredible controller players. Some of the best players in the world use controller. And it would just be interesting to see if they switched to mouse and keyboard, would they be better? In my opinion, yes, is the answer. They would be, because they are going to be able to control recoil even better than they can with a controller, and they are incredible at doing it with a controller, but even better with a mouse and keyboard or with a mouse, and they will have more options with a keyboard. So next then we've got to go over some of the positives with a controller. So we've touched a little bit on aim assist, so that is a positive of a controller. But it is kind of needed in there because of the lack of recoil control compared to a mouse and lack of movement compared to a mouse. So the other advantages are it's easy to use, so you don't have to do anything. You can just plug this thing in or use it Bluetooth, whatever it's going to be, and away you go. You don't have to map any keys. If you don't want to, you've just got them already mapped. You've just got to learn which ones do what, that's it. And away you go. With a keyboard and mouse, it is a bit harder. It does take a bit more time. That's all really, just getting used to the different keys. But yeah, this is an advantage in the fact that you can just plug it in and go. And I said about the skill ceiling on a mouse and keyboard being higher, although this skill ceiling, in my opinion, is a lower skill ceiling, so you'll reach it quicker. It is easier to get better with a controller. It's a lot harder, it takes a lot longer, I should say, to get better with a mouse and keyboard because of the different things you need to learn and how many different keys there may be. So this you'll need to learn a few buttons. On a keyboard you may need to learn 10, maybe 15 buttons, and with this you just need to learn a few. So it is easier to get used to using a controller than it is a mouse and keyboard, but like I said again, the skill ceiling you will reach quicker. Because it's easier, you will hit the ceiling of your skill level far quicker with a controller than you would with a mouse and keyboard. And certain games, this is still actually better. So if you play driving games, maybe Gran Turismo or a few other ones, and there are like a handful of other games that a controller is easier to use, okay? You've got more control, so you've obviously got the full motion here of a joystick, whereas on a keyboard you've got WASD or whatever else you use. So yeah, there's more control over this for driving games and like a handful of other games. In FPS games though, mouse and keyboard is hands down the better one. And the last thing, the positive over this, if you buy a standard one, it's a lot cheaper to buy a controller than it is a mouse and keyboard. A mouse and keyboard can set you back a couple of £100 possibly if you're going to buy decent ones. Having said that, if you buy an aftermarket controller, that can set you back the same price, if not more. But yeah, if you buy the standard ones, the PS4 or the Xbox, then they are cheaper to buy. So the question is, would I change again if I went back in time to mouse and keyboard from controller? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I think my skill level has already gone up after 4 months. I kind of hit that peak, like I said, with a controller, and I think I've gone above that already with a mouse and keyboard. I'm certainly having higher damage games, I'm having higher kill games, I'm having just more fun basically with a mouse and keyboard. When you come up against, the only thing I will say, when you come up against good mouse and keyboard players, you can see the difference in the skill gap between them and me now. And I would say that I'm better than I was with a controller, but the skill gap with the best mouse and keyboard players and the skill gap of me at this moment in time is higher than it was with the controller players. Okay, I think I was closer to the better controller players on PS4, that is. And I'm further away at this moment in time with the mouse and keyboard players on PC. Okay guys, that's it. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do have any comments, please leave them in the comment section below. And just a reminder, you can find me streaming on Twitch and Facebook. Links will be in the description below if you want to come and check them out. It'd be great to see you there. And if you did enjoy the video, please consider dropping a like, hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on. Your support will be hugely appreciated. But until next time, keep gaming, keep safe, and good night. GG.